You have some water next to you, Sam?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm all set. Oh, there is the poll.
All right. Well, it's 4 o'clock here in Belgium, definitely. So we are ready to start the webinar. You can reach out to us through chat and through the Q&A, I would believe. So feel free to do so. Feel free to interrupt us whenever you have a question or whenever you want to add something, feel free to do so. Let's see. Um, yeah, all right.
Thanks a lot for joining anyways.
Yeah. All right, everyone. So thank you for joining us on this webinar around conversion rate optimization. Normally, I was supposed to be joined by my colleague and good friend Sam, but Sam is enjoying the south of France as we speak, where the weather is so much better than here in Belgium. So a bit jealous there. What do we have on the menu today? We'll quickly introduce Dear Digital. I'll be diving into the theory behind conversion rate optimization, but Sam will actually dive into the meat of it, into the CRO and the tactics we use here at Dear Digital. A/B testing, core web vitals, landing page design, segmentation, and personalization. Once again, don't hesitate to interrupt us. Feel free to drop something in the chat. We'll try and answer it right away. Well, first question, who the fuck are we and why are we giving a webinar around CRO? I am John, I'm the co-founder of Dear Digital, and Sam is a co-founder also of Dear Digital and our technical lead, and by far the biggest brain here in the meeting. How did it all start? Well, we didn't just co-found a digital agency for nothing. Back in 2015, we actually founded our own e-commerce startup called Jazzwick. The piece of furniture you can see on the right is something we developed, and we started to sell on Shopify, obviously. In 2018, we got bought by Fully, an American furniture brand. We continued to work for Fully and actually started their European division here in Europe. We scaled it to 25 million, but later on, Fully was bought that same year by Miller Knoll, which was a big corporate in furniture from the US. And then it was time for us to actually launch Dear Digital because we had such a huge and awesome experience doing so. We were actually really fond of the things we learned along the way and wanted to help people out doing so. What did we learn along the way? Technology should enable growth in your business. This is not a big statement. What we've actually seen is technology will often limit the business. It will slow you down. What we've seen throughout the growth of our previous company was actually that you need to pick the right tech stack, and the right tech stack will actually enable further growth. A company like Shopify, who's continuously investing in R&D, will actually help you grow, will help you iterate, and do it so step by step. As an agency, we'll of course gladly help you with setting up the foundational layer, and we'll continue to help you optimize and iterate on it for growth. In 4 years' time, we grew our team to 35 business analysts, designers, and developers. I think this slide is mostly to show that we're a multidisciplinary team and that we can help you from the back end till the front end. I think it's kind of a one-liner, but definitely it holds a lot of truth. Building a store is one thing. I think we've seen it in the past. It can take a lot of work from our side, of course, from your side, but actually growing the brand is by far the hardest part. So that's what we want to talk around today is how can you actually iterate and grow and continue to grow your brand. We are trusted by a multitude of companies, and we're very thankful to be trusted by them. I think we've counted them not so long ago, and we've helped more than 100 digital brands going from 0 to 1, or launching the first website, and actually going from 1 to 10. As a recap, what do we offer as agency? We often do it in the bucket of front-end services and back-end services. Today, we'll highlight two, conversion rate optimization and core web vital optimization, that are very closely related, obviously. But as you can see, we also focus on the backend, systems analysis, ERP implementations, B2B portals, training and change management, and other types of integrations. All right, let's get into the theory. I promise you this won't take too long. What is conversion rate optimization? Most of you will have already heard about it, but how do we look at it? It's just a process. It's a process of doing better with what you already have in terms of traffic and conversions. Another way to look at it is instead of spending money on attracting new visitors, spending money to Meta, spending money on Google, you'll actually do more with your existing traffic. Just a few interesting benchmarks here. Apparently, because we had to look it up, the average conversion rate on a Shopify store is 1.4%. And so if you're above 4.7%, that brings you in the top 10% of all the Shopify stores. This was done, I think, on a group of around 4,000 Shopify stores. So not that big of a sample size, though. Good to mention here, having the highest conversion rate should definitely not be the goal. It's a means to an end. Having 20% is not per se better than having 4% or than having 1%, because it could tell you that you still have lots of room to grow, for example, in traffic. Just why the hell should you care about CRO? The cool thing is that it actually compounds and it's actually done in percentages. What you can see here is a very small funnel, added to cart, reached checkout, converted, and then in the end, you have a certain revenue. If you just adjust the added to cart rate, which is the highest in the funnel, with 10%, you would actually achieve a 13% bump in revenue, which is super interesting. Imagine then tinkering with all of the different things, reach checkout, just improving it with a few percentages, and then conversion rate, how we would call it, well, then you can get an even bigger bump there. Just to get the terminology right, what is UX, what is UI? If we talk around user experience today, it is around all aspects of interacting with your company, with the website, with the product. It includes things as the usability, as the accessibility, for example, of the website, but just in general, also the overall satisfaction of that user. While the UI specifically relates here to the look and feel often of a product, but in most cases, in this case today, let's say, of the website. I think this is a really cool quote we came up during our research for this webinar. I apologize for such a long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one. This point we want to make here is that good user experience actually takes a lot of time. And apparently Mark Twain was one of the first ones to discover that. I'm pretty sure he wasn't one of the first ones, but it was a cool quote to share here. All right. A few prerequisites for a successful conversion rate optimization track. First of all, it's an organizational mindset. It's a mindset of testing and iterating and improving, and definitely failing a lot. I think that's the most important part. You need to be ready to fail, and you need to be ready to change your systems, change your habits, and actually be ready to improve. Having a data layer is important. We'll come back to that, but it's around making sure that you can actually test something, you can falsify something. It shouldn't always be a fancy data layer, but it can be multiple things there. Your tech stack should allow for iterative growth. In the past, we were, for example, on Magento, and it would cost us tons of money to actually change something on the website. On Shopify, obviously, it is now much cheaper. And definitely rely on research. That's very important here, and on experts to help you create and measure those tests. Quick workflow, and what I want to share here is we've created a Notion template for us here internally, which we use with our clients when we're on conversion rate tracks. And this Notion template actually serves as a perfect example for the workflow. It's a very simple workflow, but it also illustrates the whole Notion template. So first of all is coming up with your experiments based on data and research. That's I would say definitely one of the most difficult parts is coming up with the right experiment, making sure which one actually has higher priority over the other, because you can do lots of fun things, but you need to make sure that you're actually spending time on the most useful things. How do you come up with experiments? Just a few tips. One very obvious one: talk to your customer, talk to sales, talk to customer service, and then a few other tips: read the chat logs, read the reviews. Often a very easy win. It shouldn't always be very negative either. It can be in the positive reviews that you can actually see, well, we might be able to improve even this positive review. And ask the following questions when you're going through the website. For example, what would motivate a user to take this action? What's causing roadblocks or friction in this flow? What's actually distracting visitors? A thing we often see and will often quickly divert from is, for example, Instagram carousels. They're lovely to see. They're lovely for social proof and just in building up your website, but they often have they often pull a visitor from your website to Instagram, and you know how Instagram is, and with their reels and so on, it actually distracts the user, and then probably they'll forget to buy. Another cool one, just ask your mom, would my mom understand this here? And then you'll see, well, she doesn't understand this. Maybe we'll need to test this with our audience. All right. Per experiment, it's important to create a hypothesis. A hypothesis should be tentative. It should not have been proven before. It should be falsifiable. You need to be able to prove it false. It should be testable. You need to be able to measure it, and it should be generalizable, which means it should be applicable to a broader scope of people. Just three sentences by which you can actually quickly create a hypothesis. Because you've seen a certain thing, you can expect that it will change and it will cause, for example, an increase in conversion, which is obviously why we're here today. And you'll measure it using, for example, Google Analytics, GA4, or just Shopify Analytics. All right, deciding on the way you like to validate your experiment. Today we'll focus on A/B testing, but there are lots of other things to do, and that's kind of what we want to say with it's an organizational mindset. Everything can be tested, everything can be improved. So it shouldn't always be validated with A/B testing. As Sam will talk about, it's not always possible either. The mom test, something I've mentioned before, a focus group, gather around a group of people that are similar, for example, in demographics, and just get them to talking around a certain problem. Uh, Pitch it internally, or get a user test. There are lots of cool websites out there where you can actually provide a certain problem, give them a few Figma designs, for example, give them a sandbox environment, and 200 users can go through it and actually give you loads and loads of feedback. All right. Designing and developing the experiment state. The control state is the state which you already have. The experiment state is what we'll want to test. Designing it is obviously really important. Again, this is part of the template in Notion. Run the test for long enough. Sam will also get into, with A/B test, how long it should be. And something we definitely want to mention here is a success within CRO is also when something is actually a failure, which is a bit counterintuitive, but it's really important to actually also achieve failures. We'll definitely have lots of failures, but let's keep it to A/B testing, of course. And then a quick word about best practices. They are really helpful. And just in the definition, they are methods that have a track record of consistent positive results, and then we assume them as a best practice. The obvious pitfalls, they are not specific to your audience. They are not specific to your company. They are not always accurate. We have no clue where the data actually comes from. It can actually destroy your brand and your positioning. So definitely take it into account. It's not that each best practice is good for you. And by definition, it is not innovative. So I think that's good to know. They are, however, a great resource for inspiration for a series of experiments. Definitely if we'll talk around best practices for your website and A/B testing. All right. This was a quick intro. I'll now leave the word over to Sam.
Yes, I'll just share my screen from my side. Here we go. Share. What? Oh, this is a bit too much. Voila. Here we go. So
Perfect.
Welcome everyone. Super excited to go through these things together with you. So we're more or less 15 minutes past 4. We want to try and leave 5 to 10 minutes of questions. So please, John, interrupt me as well if I stay too long on a certain topic. Obviously, there is a lot of enthusiasm and knowledge around every single slide, but please push me a bit to make sure that we arrive within the time so that we're mindful of everybody's time here. So A/B testing, very interesting topic, very deep topic. We just want to touch some of the basics. Also, this slideshow, obviously, you will be able to download it. And it also is the goal to share as much as possible within the slideshow so you can take it up with your team internally. So some of the slides I might be going over a bit more quickly. Just to make sure that you have everything inside of it to also discuss it internally with your team. So basically, what is an A/B test? I think this is clear for a lot of people, but it's important to get the definitions right. Just like John mentioned, it's basically a split test. You have one control group and then one idea that you can test. This can be on the website, but this also can be on email marketing, for example. So yeah, it's really important to get a data-informed decision, and you can launch A/B tests. Also multivariate testing, which is more than A versus B, obviously. So there are a lot of options there, but this is more or less what A/B testing exactly means. How does A/B testing work? So there is, like I said, a control group and then a variant, which is a new version. You can also share less or more percentage of the traffic, but basically the most basic one is 50%, 50%. And then you actually try to make sure you understand which one has the higher conversion rate. An important note here is that you can obviously set up some tests, and what you are doing in an A/B test is really measuring the impact of the new version compared to the control group. But it's also very interesting, very important to understand what the bigger picture impact is. So I'll just give a silly example to understand what I'm saying here. If you have a product that all of a sudden costs 50% less, and that's your A/B test, and the higher conversion is for the lesser costing product, then obviously if the conversion doesn't increase enough, then you will get a lower revenue. So you might be testing that it works better to convert, but in the end, the bigger picture impact is that you actually earn less. So it's really important to understand what you're doing. Again, this was a silly example, but it is important to really make sure that you understand what exactly you're testing, but also what the impact is in a broader sense of the tests. How not to run A/B tests. I will come back to this topic as well, but obviously A/B testing is also a bit of statistics, and humans are not really good at statistics necessarily. We don't really like the subject in school either. A lot of people fail on the subjects as well if you had it in school. But so here it's important to not really draw the conclusion too fast or too easily. There is a difference between a test that is statistically significant, or that you really have gone through the whole sample size that you actually really want to test before stopping the A/B test. I can go through this in more detail, maybe in a personal call or in a personal session. We will not run too deep into it, but it's really important that if you just see something on your screen in the A/B testing tools that you have, that you don't necessarily always just have to go with what they're saying, like it's already statistically significant, and then you just stop the test. It might be really early to stop the test. So please don't make that mistake. Then how long should you run the A/B test? This is a big part of the discussion that I want to have. So basically, you don't want to do it too long or too short. Basically, you want to run through more or less 2 full business cycles. And what do we mean with 2 full business cycles? Is actually more or less 2 weeks. Because obviously, like you probably all know, conversion, traffic, whatever can change with the day of the week. So you want to make sure that you went through full cycles and have the impact of all of those different days. It's also very important that if you need another sample size or some other people that visit the website, to make sure that you understand what to conclude in your A/B test, that you add another full business cycle and don't stop at 2.5 business cycles, for example. So you actually really want to go through all of the sample sizes, like I will discuss later on. Okay, then a very cool one. So we found this little tool on the internet. It's basically to make sure that you don't make the statistical mistakes that you would maybe necessarily make without using this tool. So basically here what you see at the right side is if you have a baseline conversion rate of 5% and you want to set up an A/B test and you want to measure to the detail of 10% relatively to that 5%, you actually want to measure the impact that is greater that is greater than 4.5 or 5.5%, right? So this is what you see on the right side. And then the tool actually calculates how much sample size you need per variation to make sure that you can statistically say that the impact of the A/B test really is this 10%. So this is really important. And again, to the topic that I just made, you have to make sure and by the way, this is per variation. So if you do a versus B test, then you actually need 60K sample size. Only then will you actually be really able to say statistically which one is better than the other. And again, this is really important that you really run through the whole sample size and don't stop it in front, even or before, sorry, even when your tool says that there is a statistical significance. Again, I can dive into the details and I will come back on it a bit later. But this is really important. So use the tool and make sure that you have a clear view on the sample size to make sure you know how to progress. Again, this is not too long, not too short. Now you can already ask yourself the question, but okay, I need to do it 2 business cycles and I also have a sample size. So basically, indeed, that is the conclusion. When you have little traffic, then you will probably not be able to do the sample size within the 2 to 3 business cycles. This means that you will probably need to adopt other tactics than really having an A/B test, because again, A/B tests should be statistically real. And to be able to do that, you need the sample size and you need to be able to do it within not a too short period of time, but also not in a too long period of time. So exactly more or less within this 2 to 3 business cycle amount of time. So what if you don't meet this? Then probably A/B testing is not for you at this point in time because you're running a too low traffic site at this point in time. This is not really a problem because a lot of the things that John touched upon, you can actually do without A/B testing. So you can ask your customers, you can read the reviews, and you can change stuff based on all of this information. And normally you should be able to change the customer experience already a whole lot with those inputs without actually needing to do a really statistical correct A/B test. And again, maybe I'm saying a lot statistically significant. What you don't want to do, obviously, is invest a lot of time and money into A/B testing and then actually doing it incorrectly, because this really sets the bar to make sure that you can really have wrong conclusions. And obviously, you don't want that if you spend a lot of time and money in A/B testing. This is in a graph, more or less what I said before. So if you are lower than a certain amount of conversions or traffic, then you're actually in the risk phase for optimization. Then you cannot really do A/B testing. You can still run CRO, just like John said, with mom tests and customer reviews, etc. Then there is a phase where you're really in the optimization phase that you should spend a lot of time and effort into really thinking about what the optimizations could be. And then when you're actually out of this optimization phase, you probably know very well what the customer wants or needs. Then the big tests basically are over. And then you can slowly start to automate it more and spend less time into it because you actually understand where the big changes lie. Then how to prioritize. We'll skim over this slide rather quickly. Obviously, like John said, there are a lot of ideas that you can discuss, and it's maybe hard to prioritize. So these are some of the frameworks that you can use to prioritize all of the ideas that your team might have to do A/B tests or to improve your website. Templates for writing your tests. Again, John touched upon this as well. We made a whole Notion template, so please visit it. It will help you to go through the frameworks and the hypothesis. So again, we want to make sure that you are set to start testing right away and not to read too much in detail. This is obviously why the webinar is here, to set you up already for success. In practice,
maybe good to share, Sam,
yes.
is in the Notion template, it's actually done, the prioritization is done by voting. So you can easily vote on a few tests internally then. and then obviously the one with the most votes will get tested first.
Cool. Yeah, nice. Then in practice, this is just a concrete slide, I would say. So if you want some ideas about what to test, again, John touched upon a couple of things that you could think about to improve. But what you can also do, and hopefully this is also a bit how your team is working in terms of making sure that they're data driven, is that you can actually go through or to GA4 or your analytics tool, and you can select a certain user experience. With this, I mean a sequence of steps on the website, right? That a lot of people, for example, take. And you can actually check in each step. This is also what John shared before with the little table where you see which steps actually could impact your conversion at the end. And if you tweak it in all the steps of the way, that you can actually have a big impact as a whole. You can actually go through this user experience and see where the drop-off or the experience or how the people interact with the website actually is different from what you expect it to be. And this could actually trigger you to test something, because maybe by tweaking X, Y, or Z, indeed, the flow would be more like what you would expect. So this is definitely something that you could do to come up with some ideas. Then obviously there are some external threats to your A/B tests. Don't A/B test partly or completely in Black Friday, because that's not the normal state of things, right? So then you will probably don't need to or want to gather information, because probably you will take wrong conclusions as well. Maybe there is a positive or negative press mention that has a big impact on your traffic or your conversion. Obviously, this is not something that you want to measure, because it's due to another factor than what we're actually trying to test. A/B testing is statistics. Like I said before, people are not that good in statistics, so make sure to know what you start, because again, this is not really a topic that a lot of people love to engage with. Make sure you don't have the wrong conclusions, because you didn't want to get into the details of what A/B testing exactly is. This was an important side note that I wanted to make. Things that are often overlooked, like John said as well, there is obviously organizational inertia to start testing and to start really adopting the workflow of iterative tests. You really have to be ready as a team. You have to make sure there is team buy-in, and you have to make sure there is some time and energy to spend on it, because otherwise, again, there will not be enough ideas. There will not be enough, there will not be the right conclusions. And so then it's probably better just not to start. But again, the slide deck is also maybe to internally make sure that everybody is motivated to start working on it and get some ideas flowing. Then some tools for A/B tests. VWO is one of our partners. So they actually offer a whole range of tools that you can use to set up A/B tests. So definitely something to look at. Obviously, there are different prices and different features in all of the different tools out there. So you can look around what matches you well, but VWO is one that we have good experience with and that you can do quite a lot with. Then for Browse, one of our customers, we actually did some A/B tests. So just to give you some ideas of the things that we tested from a user experience point of view. Product and category page obviously can be an important part of what you can measure, or important part of your user experience. So there are a couple of hypotheses and metrics that we measured to give you some ideas. Throughout Browse. So again, this is just in terms of giving you some examples. You will receive the slides and you can study them a bit more in detail. But these were all very interesting tests that we have gone through. This is a subscription business, so it was very important for us to understand if we put everything differently or try to nudge people into a subscription, if this worked, yes or no. And so this was what we tried to set up and measure for them with actually great results. So it was very interesting. This is another one, product ranking, obviously a very important one where you put your products. This is another example. Now, we are, I think, 15 minutes in. A big topic is already behind us. I don't know if there are any questions about the A/B testing side of things, if you have any questions about things that I touched upon. Otherwise, I'll dive into the next topic that is close to my heart. John, please also stop me, because I can talk for hours about this subject. We only have 20 minutes more or less left. So I'll try to explain Core Web Vitals. Again, big impact on your conversion rate, Core Web Vitals. They are a set of metrics actually that Google pushed forward. They are 6 metrics, but 3 of them are the most important Core Web Vitals. And they actually decide, so 3 out of 6, they decide if you pass or fail Core Web Vitals. So why should you care around Core Web Vitals? Maybe you haven't heard about it. So then this is the introduction, right? Because it impacts your ad spend, it impacts your SEO. Obviously, it impacts your conversion rate. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it today. And retention is kind of a conversion rate, so it obviously impacts this as well. Very important to understand. So how can or why, what actually Google tried to do here? They actually wanted to make metrics, a couple of metrics, like I said before, around user experience. They are more speed and performance driven, but they wanted to create one number that encompasses the user experience of people on the website. So all of these different metrics are a certain number that you have to strive for a certain number in those metrics to make sure that you hit those. And if you hit those, you have a good user experience. Again, I'll dive a bit more deeply into all of the different metrics here, but it's just the point here that Google tried to really include the most important metrics based on performance and speed. So a very, very important thing here again for you internally as a team, please stop looking at Google Lighthouse and start using Core Web Vitals. Shopify also integrated this new way of looking. So it's really important for us to make the change to not looking at one number anymore, which was before based on Google Lighthouse, but instead we have to look at the metrics that are inside of Core Web Vitals, because this is what Google also uses in terms of SEO bumps, etc. So why not Google Lighthouse? It's because it's actually a simulated number. So it goes through your website with the throttle on the CPU, etc., and it gives you one number. This is a developer's tool, and it's not a tool that teams internally should use. If you want to check the important metrics, you should go for Core Web Vitals. This is a funny slide that I just took from Google, actually. So at the bottom, you see web.dev. This is a official Google website, web.dev. And the slug is quite interesting or hilarious, actually. It's the last part is milliseconds make millions. So, I mean, you already understand where this is going towards. They did a lot of research, obviously, around if you actually increase your speed of your website. The image is about the mobile side. If you increase it by 0.1 seconds, then you actually increase your conversion rate by 8 to 10%. So if we talk about impacts on conversion rates, obviously these are for huge websites as well, not necessarily that you will see exactly this increase if you improve your speed by 0.1 seconds. But this is just to give you an idea of how big this impact could actually be. So if you're interested, please read the link as well, because it's quite interesting to see how they did the research, obviously. Then a very important topic is that Core Web Vitals, so it's not one number anymore, just like Lighthouse was before. It's actually a distribution. So what you see here is really the user experiences, so the distribution, sorry, of the user experiences. So I'll try to make it easy to understand. Depending on the device you have, depending on the internet you have, you probably are in a certain range of this experience, right? So if you're on the subway, for example, you don't really have a lot of good internet or bandwidth, then you will probably load your website less fast than when you're at home on the best Wi-Fi ever. So there is a distribution of, if people use the same website, what their experience actually is. And then there is one metric. We say that if the experience is under a certain amount, and this is what Google actually put forward, for 75% of the people in this distribution, then you actually succeed or fail for Core Web Vitals. So basically, what Google actually does, hopefully I'm explaining me right, but it checks the distribution, and the 75th percentile, sorry, if this number is in the green range, then you pass Core Web Vitals. But it's just important for you to understand it's a distribution. I'll go on about this topic, obviously. It's not one number anymore. Here you can, for example, see the same website. You see if you pass Core Web Vitals, which are the green countries, obviously, Or you fail Core Web Vitals. Again, it's for the same website, but depending on the average or typical search experience of people, you see that some countries are red and some countries are green. So here you can also understand if, for example, the important countries for you are green, maybe it doesn't really is necessary for you to research or to implement Core Web Vital changes because all of your important countries are actually green. So again, this is just to give you some more insights in how you should choose in what to invest to make sure that your conversion goes up and to guide you where to put your money, basically. Then something else, obviously, every page has a Core Web Vital score because some pages, for example, have a lot of images and videos, etc. So they typically load a bit slower. So obviously you want to also check per page how Core Web Vitals is for that page, because obviously it impacts your SEO, it impacts the experience of the customer. So if big pages, important templates, like product templates or collection templates or homepage templates, has a bad Core Web Vital score, then we really need to dig into those specific templates or pages because they have a big impact on the user experience, because a lot of people go through that specific page or template. So it's really important to break it down, understand not just the whole website, how it scores, but really specifically how the different pages score. So interaction to next paint, I want to skip it a bit. It's one of the important metrics that actually Core Web Vitals put forward since I think end of March. So there was a change in the metrics of Core Web Vitals. Interaction to next paint is a big one. It's a hard one to change, but it's actually a very important metric now in the user experience. Then a snapshot.
Can you quickly dive into what it is then? Just quickly then?
Yeah, I can say so very easily. It's when you interact with the website, you obviously want to see the result of that interaction, right? This could mean if you click open a collapsible menu, or you click on something and it's added to cart, for example. This is a good example. If you're on a product page, you click add to cart. Then you want something to happen. You don't want to click on something and nothing happens on the website. So this is actually what interaction to next paint means. It's when you interact with the website, how fast you as a customer experience the side effects of that interaction with the website. This is basically what it captures. And it's like a number in milliseconds, how long it takes for the website to react to the interaction that you have done. So this is what actually is measured. And obviously this is highly frustrating. If you click on something, nothing happens for a second, for example, then people say, okay, leave it, I'm gone. So then you lose conversions, basically. Is that clear?
Perfect.
Thanks. Then here are the Core Web Vitals. So you see interaction to next paint as the middle one. So again, the top three, so the ones above, are the ones that make sure that you pass or fail Core Web Vitals. If you fail one of the three at the top, then you fail Core Web Vitals. Now you see that both, all of the three, sorry, are actually passed. So you see at the top, Core Web Vitals assessment passed. If one of those three, for example, interaction to next paint, slows down a bit, and one of the three is not in the green, so this is the 75th percentile that I mentioned before, then you actually will fail Core Web Vitals. Here you see that all of the 6 are correct, so this is actually a good example, a beautiful website and a fast website. You can check this yourself by going to https://pagespeed.web.dev, and you can check it out for your own website to see which of the Core Web Vitals you are failing in, and so to see what you should probably improve upon to make sure that your basis, your foundations for making sure you have the most possible conversions are actually met. Here are some concrete examples to try and improve Core Web Vitals. I will not go into detail, but obviously, just like we said with A/B tests, it should be it put into a category in terms of impact and the time that we have to spend to have that impact. So obviously what you want to have is the lowest hanging fruit first. So low time and high impact, and then see what the impact on Core Web Vitals is. Then maybe a fun one, if you use Google Tag Manager, there are a lot of things that you can actually play around with. Because if you say that a certain tag in your Google Tag Manager needs to load immediately, then actually your whole experience of people on the website hinges upon all of those tags that need to be loaded within Google Tag Manager. But some of the tags, they are not necessarily needed to load directly. If you go on a specific part of the website, you can actually divert them to a later stage when the most important part of your website is loaded. Then you can say, okay, when everything is done, the important part, then you only load this tag specifically. So you can actually do a lot of things within GTM to make sure that your performance is actually increased already. For example, just to touch upon the INP question that John asked, imagine that a certain tag is loading and you click on a button, but the browser is still finishing all the calculations that it needs to finish because of the tag that is loading. Then your interaction will not be met with a next paint, so with something as a consequence of your interaction, because the tag is still being loaded. So we can divert that tag from being loaded, so that if people interact with your website, that the browser can deal with this interaction directly. Here is a beautiful example of a website that we increased the Core Web Vitals, or 2 of the Core Web Vitals for. So you see that those changes over the months actually resulted in making sure that 75 percentile is in the green bar. And so this website now meets Core Web Vitals. Then, like I said, Shopify is also switching to Core Web Vitals. Before they had 1 number on your store. Now, if you look, you actually see 3 scores: loading speed, and interactivity, and visual stability, which is actually based 100% on Core Web Vitals. So you see that Shopify is making that switch. They have awesome content around this that internally in your team, you should really report in terms of Core Web Vitals and not on the score that they had before. So yeah, please just focus on the right metrics, I would say. Another topic, we have 2 to go and more or less 15 minutes. So I think I'm more or less on track. John?
Perfect.
Another cool topic, segmentation and personalization. Again, we are trying to cover all the basic fundamental things that you really should focus on and do right. So segmentation and personalization is obviously one of those, also especially because Shopify now makes sure we can personalize and segment way easier. So this is a big topic, or becoming a big topic. So what is customer segmentation? It's basically making sure that you divide customers into specific groups or multiple groups so that you can market or create experiences based on the segments where customers live in. So this is the definition that Shopify provides us. This is the definition that hopefully will live in your head and that you can start to implement also within your own customers. There is a personalization pyramid that we came up with. Obviously, there should be the technical foundation to make sure that you can do everything above it. Then there is attraction. You attract customers on your website via advertising or SEO, etc. And then you have the segmentations of those customers that you attracted. And then based upon the segmentation, you can actually personalize the experience of specific segments. So the personalization is really based upon the segmentations that you did in step previously. So imagine, just to be very concrete, a couple of things that you can come up with, but there are thousands of these kinds of segmentations that you can come up with. And then it really starts to click rather fast in people's head. So for example, what you could say is, I want to make sure that I know all of the customers that have an account, because probably they're a bit more loyal than the other customers that don't have an account. Then you could say, I want to know which people have bought in the last 30 days. You want to make sure that you have their spending history. So for example, if the average order value or the lifetime value is average 50 euros, for example, I'm just saying something, then all of the people that are at 100 euros, they're probably very, very good spenders, or they really love your brand. But this is interesting to know, right? You want to know which customers really are in this high end or in this lower end, because you have to understand why they are maybe in their higher end or why they are in that lower end. And you can really tailor then the experience, landing pages, things in their account structure, nudges to buy something based on this information. You can also identify somebody as female or male or something else. Klaviyo can actually help. The Klaviyo algorithms can actually try to determine if this person likely is a certain, I'm forgetting the word, male or female. um, uh, so what you can actually do is try to save this in your Shopify account structure, and then actually build the specific experience around this. Another colleague of ours, Coralie Delfa, actually made a really, really cool blog post about this, where she actually created a whole personalized experience around this algorithmic hinge, if you are a male or a female, which then also creates a better conversion, obviously. So this is segmentation. You can tailor email campaigns. This is also what we know best in terms of segmentations. So this is actually a given, I think, that based on certain segmentations, people can get different emails, right? But what is not really done yet a whole lot, and this has a specific reason that I will talk about later on, is that you can also use this segmentation in Shopify. So what the problem is with a lot of websites is that the segmentation actually only lives in Klaviyo and not really in Shopify. But if it doesn't live in Shopify, then we cannot use it for personalization on the website, right? So what we're actually trying to do, and you can do this with Shopify Flow, for example, is make sure that the customer information and segmentation also lives in Shopify, so that we can build the personalized experience in Shopify as well. So this is really important to understand, that we can do this more easily. Here are a couple of examples of flows that you can just click into, so that Shopify segments your customers automatically. So you can just click, it will implement this workflow, and you can straightly dive into the segmentation that Shopify automatically actually creates for your customers. So this is really something that we should or highly recommend to look into, to make sure that you can segment your customers based on these automatic flows. Then some shout outs to some other tools, because obviously, I mean, we can use Klaviyo, we can use Shopify to segment and personalize, but there are also a lot of tools out there that you can do really cool stuff with. Ships is one. I think, John, this is the one that changes the checkout, right? Based on which country you're from. So it actually personalizes the checkout and all the GDPR related stuff based on where you're from.
Exactly. Yeah, apparently something we didn't know before, but GDPR does vary per country here in Europe. And within that checkout, you can actually alter the way people subscribe to your newsletter. Now, there's the standard, I
Checkbox.
think, opt-out, no standard opt-in you need to have. But actually, in a few countries, there can be an opt-out, which is already much better. And then in other countries, it's a bit stricter. So that would just in general improve your subscribers, and then in the end they will subscribe your revenue. So a really useful tool.
Yeah, especially I think when you're big in Germany, where everything is a bit more strict, I would say that data ships means I mean is very important to look at in terms of impact on your conversions, because the conversion can indeed also mean being subscribed to a newsletter, yes or no. You recently viewed is obviously also personalization. There is server-side personalization. I will not go into much detail about this. But if you implement everything in terms of segmentation in Shopify, and you build experiences based on those segmentations in Shopify, as Shopify's native themes are server-side rendered, you can actually do server-side personalization, which is really cool. Then Nosto is another one. It's actually a commerce experience platform. Based on the data, you can set up certain upsells or cross-sells or etc. So it's a big data play, obviously, to try and make sure that everything is personalized. So obviously, have a look at this if you think that your experience can be improved with these types of data-driven tools. The last topic, landing page designs, sorry, and the customizer. Really important topic as well, because Shopify is changing a whole lot in terms of their customizer and the flexibility that you will have. They're investing massively in their customizer to make everything even more flexible than it was before. Like not too long ago, you could only drag and drop sections on the homepage and not on other pages. That they changed obviously in the online store 2.0. Now you can drag around sections on every single page. this has already increased the flexibility a lot, but there are a lot of things that are coming out later as well. So why do we link these two topics together? It's actually because, again, you want to have a personalized or a relevant flow for a customer. So it doesn't really actually make a whole lot of sense to push everybody to the normal homepage, to the normal product page, or to the normal collection page, because you probably know where this customer comes from. You probably know what the interests are from this customer. Maybe he clicked on a specific ad. Then you want to make sure that you give him an experience that is specifically tailored to the ad that that person clicked upon. So why do a lot of people don't implement this? Because it is sometimes really hard to create all of those different experiences. And Shopify is making it more easy or easier to craft all these experiences, because it's way easier to build up these pages from the blocks that you actually have at your disposal in the Shopify customizer. So they're really investing massively to make sure that all the brands have the flexibility to create those custom experiences. If it is personalized or just based upon the channel that people come from, it's just making sure that everything is more flexible and easy for the marketing team to play around with. This is basically what it's about. So they implemented team blocks. Again, I will not go in too much detail, but before, a section was a section, and it was fixed which blocks, for example, the block here, which is the button, right? That button was part of this section. And if you wanted to make another section with also that specific button, then you had to create that section with that button again. What now changed is that you actually have blocks, and you can create sections based on team blocks, because those blocks are shared all over the sections within a team. So you can pick and choose all of those blocks from within your team and create sections as you go, which obviously is a massive improvement.
I think maybe just also from a less technical point of view, what we're trying to say here is that creating landing pages in an external tool is not, I would
Necessary
say,
anymore.
not that relevant anymore, since Shopify is getting so strong with their customizer. You of course need to make sure that it's possible to actually work that way with your customizer. But every recent Shopify store definitely is, except if you're on a headless situation or a different setup, of course.
And obviously, I mean, there are a lot of different tools. I mean, there is Instant as well that can let you build awesome things. So, I mean, there are a lot of options for every different kind of company, but also Shopify is getting a lot more flexible, which is awesome to see. Wait, now it's playing again. We didn't want this. Okay, so then our reusable components, you can nest it 8 levels deep. Indeed, maybe it's a bit too technical, and we're running a bit out of time. We also created an article about about landing pages that hopefully convert well. So we shared a link of that article as well that you can find on our website, because then you have an idea of what you can create in terms of landing pages, and thus how you can take them from the customizer and build them really flexibly. Then looking into the future, Shopify is investing even more into its online store. So by the end of the year, they said in their last release, here is our good friend Harvey Finkelstein. He's Finkelstein, I don't know how you pronounce it actually, who is the president of
Pretty
Shopify.
good friend then.
Yeah, okay. Good point. He's awesome to follow online. That's why I think he's a friend, but I never met him, obviously. And then things to play with that make the customizer or Shopify really, really flexible is everything around meta fields and meta objects. Styling flexibility will be there as well in the customizer. So borders, fonts, colors, then the theme blocks, like I said before, and then a powerful drag and drop, which is actually this part here that you actually implement a certain image and you can just say, I want this image this wide or this wide, which was also previously not possible. So they're investing massively in this part, again, to make sure that you can create flexible pages. Okay, then I'll give the word back to John because we're actually at the end. So, wow, it was a
Yes,
long
I
one.
think with this slide is just an invitation. Whomever wants to join our lunch and learn around CRO in Antwerp, we obviously bring the lunch, we give you free drinks, and for us, it's just a very cool thing to do. So feel free to say yes and no, and we'll be able to contact you guys afterwards. It should be, and it doesn't say, but it should be in a few months. And I think in 1 month. So don't hesitate to let us know.
Cool. Well, from my side at least, because I think this is the last slide. No, this was it. Thanks for attending the webinar. Obviously, we have 5 minutes or 6 minutes left for questions. So please feel free to ask any questions you want. Obviously, if you want to dive into it more deeply, you can always reach out to us. But hopefully, it was helpful. And obviously, we will share all of the information that we discussed today. So I really hope that you enjoyed. Are there any questions?
I think let's wait a bit to see if there are any.
No questions. We did
No
a
questions.
great job.
Everything was so clear, Sam.
Or a very bad job. No, but thanks a lot for attending. And yeah, we really feel yeah, we're really interested in these topics. So hopefully
Yeah.
it's
I
clear.
think maybe for just the last thing here is we're continuously trying to improve our webinars, also the content, the way we present things. We have a little studio here. Sam is just not here. That's the the little detail, but
Next time, John.
I think we'd love to hear your feedback. If you have any, feel free to share through chat, through LinkedIn, through whatever. I think we do our best to be out there, so you'll definitely find us. All
Okay.
right.
Thanks so much, everyone. I think we then can just
Thanks,
stop it.
Rosita. All right. Bye bye. Thank you.
Cheers.